She was only 14 years old when she vanished. No trace, no witnesses, no goodbyes. Elizabeth Thomas left for school one morning in Maury County, Tennessee, and never came back. Her phone stopped pinging by noon. Her locker remained untouched. The town panicked. Police dogs, helicopters, national alerts, nothing. Weeks turned to months, then years. Everyone had a theory. She ran away. She was kidnapped. She was dead. But the truth was far worse than anyone could imagine. Elizabeth wasn't missing. She was hidden, right in her hometown, in a basement, 10 feet below ground, behind a soundproof wall. And the man who kept her there? Her own English teacher, Todd Granger. Todd was 42 years old, respected in the community, known as a kind man with a gentle smile. He encouraged his students, praised their creativity, and paid special attention to Elizabeth. At first, it seemed innocent, a teacher taking interest in a talented student. But slowly, the attention turned controlling. Todd isolated Elizabeth from her friends and family. He told her the world outside was dangerous, that only he could protect her. It was a classic case of grooming, manipulation, and abuse. Authorities later called it one of the most chilling examples of psychological captivity they had ever encountered. Todd didn't just abduct Elizabeth. He trapped her mentally and physically. He had built a secret room in his basement years before, a small concrete chamber with no windows, soundproof walls, and a single door hidden behind a false panel. Inside, just a mattress, a bucket, and a small light bulb. Elizabeth was taken there and kept hidden for 10 years. No school, no friends, no sunlight. Todd fed her food, water, and books. He controlled every moment of her life. He told her lies about her family, that they had forgotten her or didn't want her back. He convinced her she was safer with him than anywhere else. Neighbors noticed Todd living alone, but saw him going about his normal routine, mowing the lawn, going shopping, waving to neighbors. No one suspected that behind the walls of his home, a young woman was imprisoned. Elizabeth's family never stopped searching. They held vigils, they posted flyers, they appeared on local news. But with no clues, hope faded. Until the day a delivery driver made a mistake. The driver was delivering a refrigerator to Todd's home. Todd wasn't there. While waiting, the driver accidentally opened the wrong basement door and saw Elizabeth. She was pale, frightened, and blinking in disbelief. She whispered one word, "Help." The driver immediately called the police. When officers arrived, they found Elizabeth alive but traumatized. She had been locked away for 10 years, her body weak, her spirit fragile. Todd was arrested shortly after. He tried to escape but was caught minutes later. He showed no remorse. In court, evidence revealed the full horror. Todd had manipulated, abused, and imprisoned Elizabeth for a decade. He faced multiple charges: kidnapping, false imprisonment, sexual assault. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without parole. Elizabeth's recovery was slow and painful. She had to learn how to live in the sunlight again, how to trust people, how to be free. She now speaks openly about her experience, raising awareness about abuse and captivity, helping others find hope in the darkest situations. Her story is a reminder that sometimes the monsters don't lurk in the shadows, they live next door. Grooming is a terrifying process. Abusers carefully manipulate victims into trusting them. They isolate them from family and friends. They create fear and dependency. It's not always physical force. Often it's psychological control that traps victims. In Elizabeth's case, Todd used his position as a teacher to gain authority and trust. He exploited her vulnerability. He convinced her to obey. Captivity cases like this are rare but not unheard of. Survivors often need years of therapy to heal. The psychological scars can last a lifetime. Always pay attention to changes in behavior of loved ones. Talk openly about boundaries and safety. Trust your instincts if something feels wrong. Abuse can happen anywhere, even from people you trust. Elizabeth Thomas's story is heartbreaking but inspiring. She survived 10 years in captivity. She reclaimed her life, and she speaks for those who cannot. If you or someone you know is trapped in abuse, reach out. There is help. There is hope. After her rescue, Elizabeth faced the hardest battle of all, rebuilding her life. 10 years underground had stolen her childhood, her education, and her freedom. At first, she struggled to adjust to sunlight, noise, and the overwhelming world outside. Every sound was new, every face unfamiliar. She had to learn how to eat regular meals, how to sleep through the night, how to trust again. Her family was relieved but heartbroken. They had grieved her loss for so long, and now they had to learn how to welcome her home while healing from their own trauma. Therapists helped Elizabeth confront the years of psychological abuse. The manipulation had left deep scars, feelings of guilt, shame, and confusion. She wrestled with memories both vivid and blurry, trying to separate reality from the lies Todd told her. The legal process was long and painful. Todd Granger showed no remorse. His defense tried to paint Elizabeth as a willing participant, but the overwhelming evidence told a different story. Psychologists testified about the effects of grooming and captivity. They explained how trauma bonds form between victim and captor, a survival mechanism that makes escape difficult. The jury convicted Todd on all counts. Life without parole was the sentence. Elizabeth has since become an advocate for survivors of abuse. She speaks openly about the importance of recognizing grooming behaviors. She urges parents, teachers, and communities to stay vigilant. Her story is a stark warning that predators can hide in plain sight, that captivity is not always about physical chains, but invisible ones too. And while Elizabeth's courage inspires many, her journey is far from over. Healing takes time, but every day she chooses freedom. Remember, if something feels wrong, speak up. If someone you know is isolated or controlled, reach out, because behind closed doors, someone may be crying for help. This is Dishonest World. Thank you for listening. Elizabeth's family described the years without her as a nightmare. Every day was filled with hope and despair. They clung to every lead, no matter how small. They never gave up searching. Her mother said the hardest part was the uncertainty, not knowing if Elizabeth was alive or gone forever. When she was finally found, their relief was mixed with shock. They could hardly recognize the girl who had been locked away for so long. She was pale, frightened, and afraid of the outside world. But slowly, with love and support, she began to heal. Counselors say that survivors of long-term captivity often experience post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Flashbacks, anxiety, and difficulty forming relationships are common. Elizabeth had to relearn normal life skills. Even simple things like crossing the street or using public transport became challenges. Her story raised awareness nationwide. Many organizations reached out to support her. She now volunteers with groups helping other survivors of abuse and trafficking. The community that once wondered what happened to Elizabeth now rallies around her. They are reminded that behind every missing person's case is a human life, a life that deserves to be found, protected, and cherished. Todd Granger's case became a blueprint for law enforcement. His meticulous control and psychological manipulation taught law enforcement how to identify similar cases earlier. Elizabeth's story is a powerful lesson that captivity is not always obvious, that monsters sometimes wear kind faces, and that vigilance and compassion can save lives. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this: never ignore your instincts. Always stand for those who cannot stand for themselves. Elizabeth Thomas survived 10 years in a basement, But her spirit was never broken. She is a survivor, a fighter, and a symbol of hope for millions. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to Dishonest World for more true crime stories. Stay safe, stay aware.